Silent night, holy night, all is calm.
Christmas in Vietnam was never defined by a single moment or location. It unfolded differently across fire bases, jungle outposts, riverboats, airfields, and base camps scattered throughout the country. For the hundreds of thousands of Americans serving abroad, the holiday arrived each year as a quiet reminder of home, appearing briefly inside a war that did not slow for the calendar. The footage and photographs preserved from these years show a mixture of routine duty, improvised celebration, and the steady work of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines carrying out their missions far from the familiar surroundings they associated with the season. For most units, Christmas began like any other day in the field. Patrols set out before dawn, listening for movement in the jungle, or watching the tree line for signs of enemy activity. Observation posts remained manned, machine gun crews stayed on standby, and squad leaders reviewed their routes for the day. Nothing about the tactical requirements of the war changed simply because it was December 25th. For the American soldiers on the line, the holiday was acknowledged, but it did not alter the responsibilities placed on them. In fire bases across the countryside, soldiers attempted to create a small sense of the holiday whenever circumstances allowed. Footage from the period shows makeshift trees constructed from brush or scrap material, decorated with whatever could be found: ration cans, bits of colored paper, small ornaments sent from home, or even equipment tags repurposed to look festive. These trees were rarely more than a foot or two high, but they served their purpose, marking the day in an environment where every day otherwise looked the same. A few strings of lights occasionally appeared, powered by generators when the load permitted. More often, the decoration was simple and improvised, reflecting the environment rather than any grand celebration. Mail played a central role in the season. For many service members, Christmas was defined more by the letters and packages arriving from home than by anything happening in-country. Units received increased mail deliveries throughout December, and scenes of soldiers reading cards or holding small wrapped gifts from family members appear frequently in archival footage. Cookies, candy, magazines, and simple gifts, handmade or purchased, traveled thousands of miles to reach the front. These items were often shared among squads or distributed to those who had not yet received anything. Even brief delays in the mail created tension, followed by relief when deliveries finally arrived. In some areas, soldiers took part in small outreach efforts during the holiday season, visiting local orphanages or delivering gifts to children in nearby villages. These visits were brief and dependent on security conditions, but they became a meaningful part of the holiday for the units involved. In Vietnam, rear area units had more opportunity to acknowledge the day. Mess halls prepared holiday meals whenever conditions allowed, serving turkey, ham, stuffing, and pies to long lines of service members grateful for a break from standard rations. Decorations appeared on walls, and music played over loudspeakers. Photographs from these bases show soldiers wearing Santa hats mailed from home, posing reluctantly for cameras, or gathering in small groups around tables for a rare hot meal. But even in these settings, the war remained present. Religious services were held whenever conditions allowed, both in the field and on larger bases. Chaplains traveled with their units, conducting brief gatherings in clearings, bunkers, or makeshift tents, sometimes with only a handful of soldiers present. On major installations, more formal services took place in chapels or open-air structures built from plywood and sandbags. Attendance varied with operational demands, but for many, these moments offered a brief pause from routine duties and a chance to reflect. Christmas services were often simple, marked by a few hymns, a short reading, and whatever quiet the day happened to provide. For troops positioned deep in the jungle, Christmas looked very different. A few soldiers carried small decorations in their packs, cards, photos, or small ornaments to place beside their gear for a moment before they slept. These gestures were quiet, personal, and often unspoken. Medical units saw little change on Christmas Day. Nurses, doctors, and medics treated casualties as they arrived, continuing the work that defined their days regardless of the date. In some hospitals, small trees were placed near the wards, and a few decorations appeared along the corridors. Patients recovering from wounds received cards from volunteers or small gifts assembled by support organizations back home. But the pace of treatment continued steadily, without interruption. For those working in these facilities, Christmas was acknowledged in passing, but their responsibilities did not change. Entertainment reached certain areas in the form of USO shows, the most famous being the annual Bob Hope Christmas Tours. These shows brought music, comedy, and brief moments of normalcy to thousands of service members. Footage from the period shows packed crowds of troops gathered around makeshift stages, watching performers under the heat of the sun or beneath low, overcast skies. For many attending, the show represented one of the few clear memories of the holiday during their time in Vietnam. Those stationed too far from the tour watched recordings when available, connecting to the larger sense of the season through whatever means they could. The experience became part of the shared memory of those who served. Looking back, Christmas in Vietnam stands as a symbol of resilience, not because of grand celebrations, but because of the simple gestures that carried meaning in difficult circumstances.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother
Merry Christmas from all of us here at Battle Docks. Thank you for joining us tonight.